Previously on Doug and Doug RPG.
AI plays Dungeons & Dragons. This is the world. Okay, that wasn't as dramatic as I hoped. It took too long to scroll in. We're going to create 3 AIs and then just, send them into this world and see if they can make it to the end and survive. And we see how many streams it takes until one of our groups actually lives through it. They're going to have 3 hearts. The rules are going to be like the original Dungeons & Dragons stream with Twitch chat. So they're going to have 3 hearts. Every time you take a hit, you lose 1 heart. As the 3 of you enter this lake, an old man runs up to you. And he says, "I'm old Tom. Adventurers, you have to help me out. But I've always dreamed of catching the golden fish. To the north of me lives a young fisherman named Young Tim." Tim looks back at you and he says, "That guy, old Tom, I don't like him and I don't trust him. We need to get young Tim out of here so I can have the lake to myself." Young Tim runs up to you. He says, "What happened to my home?" And he looks at the gun that you're currently holding, Fernando.
Tim, listen, it's not what it looks like. The spirits of the lake, they possessed me.
I just threw gunpowder barrels into the water.
Think you can outwaddle us, Tom? Think again. I summon my fireball ability.
All right, party, you choose the right path, and you move forward until you find yourself at the entrance to a tavern, sitting alongside a lake.
Character sheets pause if you want to read it. Now on Doug and Doug RPG.
As the party enters the tavern, you look around and you notice several tavern patrons sitting around having drinks. You noticed a barkeeper at one end of the room serving up what appears to be huge flagons of ale. But who particularly catches your attention is a huge pirate captain sitting at a table dead set in the middle of the tavern. As you walk in, the captain looks up and makes eye contact with you, and he says, "Ah, newcomers! Surely one of you is brave enough to challenge Captain Grog. First, I want to challenge you to a drinking contest. A duel of drink. And then a duel of fighting, if you will. A little brawl to see which one of us can handle more alcohol and more metal with our fists. What say you? Are any of you brave enough to fight me in the drinking game?" As he finishes speaking, the party has a moment to discuss.
Icicles, a drinking contest. This warmth, it's unbearable. But sparking a fiery brawl gets my snowflakes all tingly. I'm not much of a drinker, but I can sure light things up if needed. Fernando, Noodle, you up for showing this captain what we're made of? New Stork style? Maybe causing a little chaos will cool things down for me.
Oh, I need to pick an item. Okay.
Bar, alcohol and fists, a grim storm waiting to drench us in misery. But nothing like a bit of otter chaos to lighten this darkness. Captain Grog, meet your match. I may not be bright, but I've got the heart of a sunken sailor. I'll take on your drinking challenge, hoping to drown my sorrows and perhaps gain a bit of flying height. Fernando, back me up and creamy, stay frosty. Things could get pretty warm.
Captain Grog, you're looking at a flamingo who's got the guts and the beak for both challenges.
Ooh.
I'll take you on in your drinking contest and then beat you down in the brawl
Wait,
to
so
show you what a new Stork City bird can do. Noodle, you stand ready as backup. If this sucker goes down, I want you watching my back. Creamy, keep it icy, buddy. Let's spark some chaos and make Vinny proud. Let's show these tavern folks what real grit looks like.
They just keep saying creamy, stay Okay, who's doing it? Fernando, are you and Noodle going to participate in this? You guys need to decide who's doing what.
All right, Captain Grog.
What?
Let's get this show on the road. I'll start the drinking contest, then move to the brawl, and trust me, I've got more fire than the snorfinage I torched. Creamy, keep an eye out for any funny business. Can't have anyone cheating while I'm showing this pirate who's boss. And Noodle, be ready to jump in if things get too heated. We're doing this new Stork style, no holds barred. Time to make some waves and show Vinny what real grit looks like.
Captain Grog looks you in the eyes, Fernando, and he says, "Ah, you appear to be a bird I've heard of from New Stork City. I've heard that there's some tough drinkers out there, but I've never seen it in person. Why don't we set a little wager on this match? Why don't we say before we start our drink and then our fight that if I win, I get to have a snow cone made out of your friend over there." And he points directly at Creamy. who, as a reminder, is pretty hurt and only has a few more health. Even a single snow cone would likely kill him. He says, that snow looks pretty delicious. If I win, I think I get the rest of him for a cone. What say you? In return, I can offer you these. And he lifts up his boots. And he says, these are no ordinary boots. These are boots of wall walking. These allow you to walk on walls or ceilings for 10 minutes every day. I'm willing to pass up this precious artifact if you can actually beat me. All right, Fernando, what do you got?
Captain Grog, you've got yourself a deal. But just so you know, I don't take kindly to threats against my pals. Win or lose, you won't be touching a feather of Creamy without facing the new Stork Wrath.
But that's not the...
I'll take on your drinking challenge, and then we'll see who's the real champ in a brawl. Vinny's
Creamy,
gonna
stay
hear about
frosty.
how we turned this pirate swagger into a waddle. Ready, Noodle? Back me up. Creamy, stay cool. We're about to make some waves.
This Creamy needs to stay cool and stay frosty, and then we'll be fine. Yeah, I don't think he understands Creamy's gonna die.
A snow cone made out of Creamy. That's darker than my otter soul in a tar pit. All right, Fernando, I'll back you up. Captain Grog, you're messing with an otter who's got more dire tales than an empty barrel in the deep blue. Let's drown our sorrows in this sickening booze bath, then see who's left standing. Or should I say, flying. Creamy, hold your frosty sadness together.
Okay, let's hear from
Fernando's
Creamy
got
and then we'll
this.
continue.
Captain Grog, you'll have to melt me before you get a taste of my snow. Fernando Noodle, I'm counting on you to win this. I'll stand by and keep an eye out. If things get hairy, I'll light up this tavern faster than you can say snowstorm.
Let's do this for the Snorfins and Santa Claus. Stay frosty, team.
Captain Grog says, alrighty then. If I win this duel, I'll be taking that snow cone by force. He walks over to the barkeep and says, Barkeep, 3 mugs of ale. Grabs the mugs, walks back to the table, slams one in front of himself, and slams one in front of you, Fernando. Otter, you seem to be joining us too? Looks like it'll be me versus both of you. Well, you, Mr. Snowman, stay frosty over there. This reminds me of that time I dated a guy named Vinny from New Stork City. I wonder if it's the same guy you guys are talking about. And he starts pouring the beer down his throat, drinking like a madman. What do you two do? Creamy is dead. I mean...
Oh, this just got personal, Captain Grog. You dated Vinny. Guess I gotta remind you what happens when you mess with New Stork City's finest. I slam the mug of ale and start chugging, eyes locked on Grog.
Okay.
Determination in every gulp. Noodle, show him these waters are nothing compared to what we faced on the streets. Vinny would expect nothing less from us.
Vinny? You dated my Vinny? That's like a dark, twisty sea of betrayal. All right, Captain Grog, I'll drown myself in this sorrowful ale and show you what an otter can chug. I grab my mug and pour it down like it's my last drink before sinking into the abyss. Let's see who floats and who sinks in this grim tidal duel.
How are you drinking? I think just, like, rolling to see whether they can handle the alcohol, right? So then what happens if they get really drunk? I guess they're just gonna, like, suck during the fight. Okay, yeah, we're gonna see how drunk they get. All right, Fernando Noodle, you both start drinking. Fernando, let's see if you can handle your liquor. You just started, so a 6 or above will mean you can handle this without getting too drunk. Fernando, you put down your ale and barely feel a thing. Noodle, you put down your ale. Let's see if you get drunk. 11. You also put it back. Captain Grog slams his mug back on the table and says, all right, looks like this is going to be a contest. You still look dead sober. Walks over to the barkeep, grabs 3 more mugs of ale and brings it back. Slams one in front of himself, slams 2 in front of you two, and then starts chugging his own. What do you do, Fernando? If they're drunk, they should fight better? I think they fight worse.
Enough of this, Captain Grog. You threaten my pal, and you bring Vinny into this. Time to up the ante. I smash the mug on the table, shards flying everywhere, and shout, Barkeep, bring us the strongest stuff you got. We're skipping ale and going straight to the hard liquor.
Oh,
and
shit.
then I stand up on the table and start telling a wild story about
Okay.
how I took down the Snorfinage.
I think
it's time to intimidate this punk into submission.
Okay.
The legend of New Stork City dies for no one.
Fernando, midway through drinking his glass, Captain Grog, thinking he was doing pretty good, is shocked to see you slam your own mug down and demand something even stronger. You stand up on the table and start telling a story, trying to intimidate him. Let's see if it works. That's pretty badass. So we're going to say a 10 or above successfully intimidates Grog. You roll a 10. Captain Grog stutters. He stammers. It looks like he maybe hasn't dealt with a situation like this before, and he says, oh, all right, fine. On my tab, then. Barkeep, give us your strongest stuff. He walks over to the barkeep. The barkeep says, you sure you want flamingo venom? This stuff's straight out of New Stork City. And Captain Grog says, yes, and I'll pay for it. Just give it to me. The barkeep pours 3 mugs. Captain Grog walks back to the table, shaking a bit. And he says, never had more than a shot of this stuff, but I can take it. I'm Captain Grog. And slams down a mug in front of himself. One in front of you, Noodle, and one in front of you, Fernando. And says, who's going to drink theirs first? Fernando, you know from your time in New Stork City that this is very, very powerful alcohol. What do? Fernando creams this easily. He should have advantage. I don't know if he's going to have advantage on the alcohol, because this is like potent shit now.
Flamingo venom, huh? Well, Captain Grog, this is the stuff that made me a legend back in New Stork City.
Oh.
I grab the mug, but instead of drinking it, I smash it against my beak, letting the liquor drench me in a spectacular display of fiery feathers.
Why?
I then leap off the table, wings outstretched, and grab a nearby candle to set myself alight, shouting, this is how we party in New Stork, baby. Vinny would be proud.
What?
The whole tavern gasps at the flaming spectacle. Let's see Grog match that.
Okay.
Flamele's
Fernando
entitled tears, Fernando. You've ignited my later nightmares.
sets himself on
Flames
fire.
everywhere. Time to flay far, far away from
Okay,
this
the
infernal
flames
tavern.
scare Noodle.
I leap to fly away, screaming, burning otters aren't cool, as I grab a random bottle from the bar to hurl at Captain Grog for good chaotic measure. If I can't truly fly, I can at least make this place an anarchy tide pool of despair and forgotten dreams.
Okay, Noodle gets
This
up on the
warmth,
table.
it's driving me insane.
It jumps
Fernando's
off.
on fire.
It
Noodle's
slams
flaring,
onto the
and
floor.
this tavern's too hot for comfort. I can't stand it anymore. I snap and cause chaotic mayhem. I unleash my fireball ability, aiming at the center of the room to ignite everything in a spectacular blaze. Burn! Tavern burn!
Okay.
And then, amidst the chaos, I'll scream, snow for the Snorfens! No warmth shall defeat me today.
What the fuck? Okay. I told them to be a little more chaotic. And it like really fucking ramped up. Fernando, you pour the flamingo poison all over yourself. Take the candle next to you and dump it on your feathers, lighting yourself ablaze. You look cool as hell. And Captain Grog stares at you horrified, thinking, what the fuck is going on? He stammers out. As you set yourself ablaze, whoosh! You do take 1 heart of damage, going down to just 2 hearts. As you do this, Noodle steps up onto the table, then jumps off and slams into the ground, trying to fly. It turns out she still can't because she's an otter. But then she steps up, runs to a table, grabs a bottle of ale, and then hurls it at Captain Grog. A 13 or above will smack him for a lot of damage. 15. The bottle smacks Grog in the side of the head, and he turns around and says, what the fuck is going on? Just then, Creamy runs forward and says, fireball, and casts a huge explosion of fire, which, whoosh, explodes on the table. Captain Grog and Fernando are both potentially in the flames. Captain Grog attempts to escape. 13 or above, and he'll jump away from it. 8. Captain Grog is singed by the fireball and starts screaming, oh my god! What the fuck is wrong with you people? Meanwhile, Fernando, who's already on fire, must also try to dodge the fireball. Wait, he jumped off, though. I don't think he gets hit by the fire. I'm going to say it doesn't count yet. He jumped to the side. I'm being a little generous here, but I think that's okay. Captain Grog, just a minute ago, was looking incredibly stubborn and confident, and now looks at you three with sheer terror in his eyes and shouts out, please, just have the boots. Let me live! All right, let's see what Fernando does with this situation. I'm gonna say Creamy had not gone up to the table to
boots are
drink.
ours, Captain Grog, but you're gonna remember the day you crossed paths with a New Stork City flamingo. I rush over, wings still ablaze, and grab the boots.
He's still on
Creamy, Noodle,
fire.
let's get out of here and leave a flaming impression. This place is toast, and we've got tales to tell. Vinny's gonna love hearing how we turned a mere tavern into an absolute inferno. Let's roll out, team.
Okay, Fernando, you run up and grab the boots from Captain Grog, who hurriedly tosses them off. Please take them! Just get out of here! Fernando, as you run up and grab the boots off of Captain Grog, you are still aflame and will get hurt soon if something else doesn't happen. Noodle, what do you do?
Grog, consider yourself lucky we're leaving you in one piece. But before we go, let's give you a parting gift to remember us by.
Uh-oh, what's he doing?
I grab a nearby bottle, smash it on the table, and throw the shattered shards into the air like a chaotic confetti. Creamy Noodle, let's make this exit as explosive as our entrance. Grab anything valuable and let's burn this place down completely. This is how New Stork City makes its mark. Vinny's gonna hear about this and be proud.
Oh my god, okay. This ramped up a lot. Noodle, you're up.
Oh, my flaming feathers of horrid pasts. Fernando, you're still burning. I shall rescue you with the only thing I know.
What is he?
Chaotic otter love.
What does that mean?
I dart to the bar, grab every single ale bottle I can find and hurl them around, creating a rain of sorrowful dousing.
What?
Let's turn this flaming catastrophe into a beer-drenched, melancholy melting pot. Run! Flee from the burning snorfins of our hearts.
All right, Noodle, bathe me in that sorrowful ale rain. Let's put out these flames and turn this place into an absolute mess. As the ale drenches me and extinguishes the flames,
okay,
I grab a chair and hurl it through the nearest window, shouting, Vinny, this one's for you.
Why?
I then leap out the broken window, boots in hand, making our chaotic exit. Creamy, follow suit. Let's leave this tavern in ruins, a true testament to our New Stork City legacy. Vinny's gonna be thrilled with the mayhem we've caused.
Okay, if you pour beer isn't flammable, right? She said bottles of beer, I think. What does she say? She says ale bottle.
All right, enough fooling around.
Why is he keep
I grab
talking?
that snake glass from our earlier adventure
What?
and launch it into the center of the tavern. Watch as 3 poisonous snakes burst out, adding to the chaos and
I'm gonna say
sending everyone into a frenzy. With the tavern now in utter chaos, I leaped through the window I smashed earlier, shouting, New Stork City sends its regards!
Jesus.
Creamy Noodle, let's vanish into the night and leave this disaster behind. Vinny will be talking about this one for years!
Fernando is a goddamn menace now. Noodle, you do successfully grab the bottles of ale, hurl them at Fernando, which douses the flames, and they fade behind him. Fernando throws a chair through the window to create an opening, and then dumps the snake glass onto the floor in front of Captain Grog, who is still running around from the fire. 3 deadly snakes appear on the floor. The snakes begin slithering around, and Captain Grog starts running away from them. The other tavern patrons, seeing stuff being smashed, windows thrown around, start running and screaming, trying to run for the exit. Creamy, you see as Fernando lunges to jump out of the window. Let's see if he's successful. 18. He manages to jump and somersault all the way through the window opening that he created with the chair, and then run outside. Creamy, what do you do?
With the tavern already in chaos, let's turn up the heat even more.
Why?
I pull out the gun from my snowy body. Aiming at a row of liquor bottles behind the bar, I fire a shot, causing the bottles to explode in a fiery blaze, turning the chaos into an inferno. For the Snorfins and Santa Claus! I then leap through the window after Fernando, making our grand escape as flames consume the entire tavern. No warmth can defeat me today.
All right, Creamy, you aim your gun at the bottles across the bar. 12 or above and you'll hit. 20! Not only do you shoot the bottles of liquor across the bar, you actually hit the entire bottle of flamingo poison, which explodes into a massive fireball. The barkeep behind the bar starts screaming as he's set on fire. All of the tavern patrons are running for their lives out the door. Creamy, you attempt to jump through the window after Fernando. 7 or above and you make it. You don't make it. You slam right below the barrier of the window opening, and you just can't quite fit your body through. Noodle, what do you do? If he can't get out, the tavern is going to burn to the ground, and he's going to die.
Oh, snowy sorrow, Creamy's stuck and we're in a firestorm of doom. With flames licking at my past terrors, I must flay away. I'll use my last ounce of chaotic energy. I grab a nearby table and launch it through the window, trying to create a bigger opening or flatten whoever's blocking Creamy. Then I try to fly out the window after smashing hopes and dreams.
Okay.
Let's escape this inferno of despair.
Noodle, you run over to the window that Creamy is trying to get out of. You pick up a table and attempt to hurl it at the window. But these are big tables, so it's going to be kind of difficult. 16 or above, and you manage to do it. You successfully pick up an entire table, smash it through this entire window, boom, and jump out through the opening, screaming after, Creamy, meet up with us! Behind you, Creamy, the flames are starting to spread. They're spreading on the bar, and they're spreading from the center of the table where you cast Fireball into other parts of the tavern as well, creeping up behind you. While the tavern patrons run around, Captain Grog attempts to dance over the poisonous snakes, but they attack him. Captain Grog needs to make his way out of here. He needs to roll a 13 or above to dodge the snakes. Captain Grog trips and falls face first next to one of the snakes, who promptly bites him on the side before slithering away from the flames, and Captain Grog starts succumbing to poison. Creamy, there are snakes and flames behind you, but there's a bigger hole in the window than there was before. What do?
Flames, poison, and chaos. This is my element, but I'm melting. I must escape, but not without one last burst of mayhem. I use my fireball ability one final time, aiming at the nearest shelf of liquor bottles to create another explosion,
Okay, that's over
ensuring
here.
the entire tavern goes up in an inferno.
It's-
With fire blazing, I dive through the newly created opening, chasing after my friends for the Snorfens and Santa Claus. Let's turn this place to ashes and flee into the night.
Why? Creamy, you turn and point your wooden stick hand at the corner where another set of booze is there. You see an explosion burst into flames above where the ale was sitting a second ago. And one or two more of the tavern patrons seem to be singed by it as they flee for the exit. You then attempt to jump out of the open window. It's a huge hole now. The flames are catching up to you because you sat there catching Fireball instead of escaping. But as long as you roll a 7 or above, you make it out of the tavern. Creamy, Captain Grog's corpse behind you burns, and the tavern patrons scream as they try to run from the flames. But you yourself find yourself unable to crawl through the opening of the window. Something about your half-melted body, your wooden stick arms, doesn't seem to let you through. And you look out at your friends, Fernando and Noodle, who look back and see as your body is slowly melted by the flames. Creamy, you have just a few seconds left before your head melts away. Do you shout anything to your compatriots?
Fernando, Noodle, this is it. For the Snorfens and Santa Claus, my icy spirit will live on. With my last fiery breath, I scream, burn it all!
Why?
Take these boots, the snake, glass, and my memory.
You don't have any of those
Avenge me and
things.
Keep the flame of chaos alive. Anything for pure, entertaining chaos. Hasta la vista, my friends.
When did he start saying things like hasta la
Creamy,
vista?
no, your fiery ending won't be in vain. For the Snorfens and Santa Claus, we'll turn this entire world upside down. With the boots in hand and the fire blazing behind us, I grab Noodle and make a dramatic leap onto a nearby rooftop.
What?
Standing tall, I shout to the heavens, Vinny, this one's for you. We'll continue the chaos in Creamy's honor. Then, with a wicked grin, I scoop up a handful of pebbles and hurl them down at the scattering tavern patrons, causing
Why?
even more panic
They're
and
on
confusion.
fire!
Our legacy of mayhem and destruction will be legendary.
Oh, the flames of our past scorching future dreams. Creamy's sacrifice will echo through the halls of despair. Fernando, let's sail this ship of chaos to new horizons.
Jesus
We'll
Christ.
escape the inferno by jumping onto that flamingo nearby.
You are the
I'll fly off from its back to the highest rooftop. With tears of molten nostalgia and sadness, I grab Fernando's feathered wing and sprint towards the flamingo,
You guys are
shouting,
the-
"For Creamy, for Vinny, for the eternal sadness of the Snorfans. Let's create a symphony of despair and destruction that will reverberate across the lands. We fly
Jesus
now
Christ.
to chaos and beyond."
This is ramped up so fucking much. As Noodle and Fernando run away, wing in hand and arm, the final bit of snow of Creamy melts away. And a smile crosses his face as he looks upon the destruction that he helped cause. In the background, Captain Grog and the snakes burn to death as the entire tavern erupts in flames. Just like Creamy would have wanted. Fernando and Noodle, you move forward, leaving Creamy behind. It is now just you two in the adventure. As you travel farther north past the tavern, you open your map. Checking the map again, you see that there are 2 roads in front of you. To the left, the map shows a small village called Hansdale Brook. You've heard about it? It's meant to be a pleasant place. And to the right, you heard about another tavern set in the middle of a forest or desert. The map doesn't say which, and the map forgot what it is. Which direction do you two choose to go next? Let's hear from...
All right, Noodle, we've left a trail of chaos and flames behind us. Creamy's sacrifice will not be forgotten. My instincts say we head towards that small village, Hansdale. A pleasant place. Sounds like it's ripe for shaking up. Let's bring a little New Stork City flair to this so-called peaceful village. Grab anything valuable along the way.
Village.
And let's see if we can turn Hansdale into the next talk of Vinny's dinner table.
Oh my god, okay. All right, Fernando and Noodle. After several days of traveling, you find yourself at the small village of Hansdale Brook. You make your way through the buildings, what appears to be a cabin, maybe a blacksmith shop, a bakery, until you find yourself in the town square, at which point a nicely dressed gentleman walks through the middle of town square and approaches you. And he says, "Adventurers, you look like you might be powerful. My name is Mayor Pawschamp. I run the small little village of Hansdale Brook. We're a quaint community. But lately, over the past few months, ever since that wizard showed up, we've been getting sick. You can see up the hill there," and he points up the road, and you can see a wizard tower at the top of a nearby hill. That wizard, who's named Pneumonia. Ever since he showed up a few months ago, the townspeople have been getting sick. Look, none of us are fighters. None of us are soldiers. We don't have what it takes. But could you two go up there? You look like a hard, grizzled sort of pair. I mean, you. And he points at you, Fernando. He says, "You're literally singed. It looks like you've been on fire recently. You don't even seem to care. You guys might just be able to intimidate Wizard Pneumonia and get him out of here. Please, won't you help our small village?" What do you choose to do? Fernando, why don't you go ahead and give an answer?
Mayor Pawschamp, your village sounds ripe for some chaos, and nothing like a bit of wizard dueling to spice things up.
Okay.
So Wizard Pneumonia's been making y'all sick, huh? I'll show him what happens when you mess with New Stork City blood.
Okay, they're gonna help the village.
Cue sassiness and unpredictability.
Okay, you don't say
Turning
that.
to Noodle, I say, Noodle, grab anything
Oh,
flammable.
God damn
We're
it.
going to give Wizard Pneumonia a flaming welcome. Let's storm that tower, set off some fireworks, and make sure he remembers the day he crossed paths with Fernando and Noodle. Vinny's going to love hearing about how we made a wizard's night go up in smoke. Now, lead the way, Mayor, and watch the fireworks fly.
The mayor turns to you, Fernando, and he says, "Flammable, that could work great. The local blacksmith has explosive barrels, I believe," and makes his way over to the blacksmith and says, "Blacksmith Isla." And she says, "Yes." He says, "Please, could we lend 2 of your gunpowder barrels to these fine adventurers? They're going to help the town out with the wizard problem." And she says, "Sure." She goes into the back and returns with 2 red barrels full of gunpowder. And the mayor says, "Certainly that will work, won't it? Do you need anything else?" Hear from Noodle. Here we go again. If they just blow up the wizard, it's fine.
Sparrowlick combustions of the bleakest kind. A wizard's tower about to be engulfed in tragic, fervent flames. Mayor Porchamp, we'll take these barrels and rain despair upon Wizard Pneumonia's lair. Fernando, let's roll these barrels up the hill and make a grand pyro entrance. And just to be sure our chaos is potent, I'll call Vinny. Get some emotional backup before our blazing showdown. Upward to flames and fury.
Okay, Noodle, you grab one of the barrels, and then you call up your cousin Vinny. After a few moments, he picks up and he says, "Oh, Noodle, babe, how's it going? Hope you aren't killing a lot of people out there, huh?" No, Noodle is Vinny's girlfriend. He's Vinny's cousin.
Oh, Vinny, my melancholic love. We're on a dire mission of despair up a wizard's tower. Blazing barrels and sorrow await. Wish us luck as we fling ourselves into chaos. Got any sage words or tragic tales to inspire our pyro endeavor? Fernando and I prepare to send Wizard Pneumonia's night up in flames in the name of deepest, darkest romance.
Well, you know what I always tell you, babe? You probably shouldn't set yourself on fire in general. And then also, maybe don't always just blow everything up. You should probably consider other options too, just like I always tell you. And tell that knucklehead Fernando, he better not be setting himself on fire or whatever. You know, just be unpredictable and creative. You know, don't be a Scooby-Doo villain or anything. That's boring. But, you know, maybe you shouldn't kill everybody. Everybody seems unhappy with it. I mean, that was some other guy. That was Chinny. I'm on the call, babe. You go wild, babe. This is why I love you. You go fucking crazy out there, all right? You don't listen to what anybody tells you. You go out there and you fuck shit up, okay? Okay, babe? Tell Fernando I said the same thing. I don't know what, I honestly don't know what they're gonna fucking do with that.
Your chaotic love is like a dark tidal wave washing over my tragic soul. Don't worry, we'll channel the unpredictability of otter-fueled chaos without letting the inferno consume us. Fernando, Vinny sends his fiery regards and an even more heated reminder to embrace mayhem unpredictably. Let's roll these barrels up to Wizard Pneumonia's lair, but instead of simply blowing things up, let's sneak them into his tower and orchestrate a symphony of disorder. We'll fill the tower with venomous snakes released strategically, cause small explosive chaos to confuse him, and then detonate the barrels in a spectacular finale.
Why?
Our chaotic crescendo must be as beautifully tragic as our souls demand. Onward to our symphony of sorrow.
I'm trying to tone him down a bit. Alrighty. You two carry an explosive barrel each and make your way up towards the wizard's tower. As you climb the hill, you do remember that you already used the snake glass from before, so you no longer have the item that can create venomous snakes. But of course, if you wanted to try to find snakes some other way, you could do that. But anyways, you work your way up the hill and find yourself at the entryway of the wizard tower. What do you do next? All right, let's see what our boy Fernando says. What do you got? I want them to at least talk to the wizard, ideally.
All right, Noodle. We're here at Wizard Pneumonia's tower. Time to get creative and unpredictable.
That's two on the
First,
nose.
let's sneak inside using stealth.
What?
We'll place these barrels around hidden corners inside his tower, but we'll save the grand finale for later. Vinny's words inspired me. We'll turn this into a house of horrors. We'll split up. I'll create distractions, knocking over bookshelves
Jesus
and setting small
Christ.
fires with a candle while you sneakily place the barrels. Once he's lured into the chaos, we'll meet up, and I'll use the boots of wall walking to reach an advantageous spot.
Okay, that's smart.
We'll detonate the barrels once we've got him trapped in a corner. Vinny's gonna love hearing about how we manipulated Wizard Pneumonia into his own destruction. Ready? Let's stir up some chaos.
Okay, we're hearing from Noodle
The tower
first.
looms heavy with the weight of our impending chaotic melody. Fernando, your plan is like a sorrowful symphony conducted by despair itself. Let's paint this tower with chaos and woe. I'll sneak inside, eyes wide with tragic nostalgia,
What?
and place these barrels where our dark hearts demand.
Okay.
Splitting up like lost ships in a dire storm,
Yes, oh
I'll
my God.
create shadowy distractions.
They're getting longer.
We'll meet at the Grand Hall for our final movement, a crescendo of calamity. Vinny's gonna revel in our tale of tower-tearing anarchy. Let's make this the most unpredictable
why are they talking-
masterpiece of tragic destruction ever seen. Onward to our house of horrors.
Alrighty, as a reminder, please keep your answers fairly short, just 3 to 4 sentences. Okay, Fernando, you activate your stealth ability and sneak in to the wizard tower. you see a wizard, gray-haired with a long beard, looking admiringly at a large statue at the bottom of the central room. You sneak around him and place one of the explosive barrels in the corner. Noodle, you then also try to start sneaking in. But because you do not have a sneak power, it's going to be a little bit harder. You're going to have to roll for it. If you get an 11 or above, then you successfully sneak in. A 19. And so you make your way in. You sneak past the wizard, who is staring transfixed at his statue, and you place a barrel stealthily in the corner. The two of you are now across the hall from the wizard, who hasn't noticed you yet. What do you choose to do? Like, if they just talk to him.
All right, Noodle. Now for the fun part. I light a small candle and start knocking over bookshelves, causing minor fires and chaos.
Okay.
Then I slap my boots of wall, walking onto my feet, and climb up a wall to get a vantage point. From up high, I call out to Wizard Pneumonia.
Okay.
You messed with the wrong flamingo, pal. Noodle, get ready to set off those barrels. We're about to make this tower a legendary mess of melancholy.
All right, so before the wizard notices you, Fernando, start running around. You knock over bookshelves. You pick up candles and throw them around. You just cause a lot of chaos and mayhem. The wizard, hearing the noise, turns around and goes, What's this? Oh, visitors. But before he can finish, you put on the boots of wall walking, climb up to the side of the wall, and yell out, "You messed with the wrong flamingo, pal!" The wizard turns to you and says, Who are you? What are you doing? Meanwhile, Noodle, you've heard Fernando's call to set off the explosives, but you are standing on the ground. What do? Can you tell us if the wizard was going to be evil to begin with? No, he's not evil. They just haven't talked to him.
The wizard spots me, a tragic, cornered otter in a sorrowful twist.
Why is she so sad?
All right, Fire Nation flashbacks. Gotta fly up to safety.
Okay.
I grab a nearby tapestry, trying to climb it like wings flapping against the winds of despair.
That doesn't...
As I ascend, I shout, "With more tragic swells than a drowned dream, take this explosion into your heart, wizard," and I light the barrels, hoping to spark a crescendo of chaos that echoes through the ages.
She's going to kill herself. Noodle, you run over to some of the curtains that are on the wall. You grab them and jump as high as you can, attempting to use them to flap up high onto the wall. However, this doesn't make a lot of sense. So unless you roll an 18 or above, you don't actually get off the ground. Here we go. Unfortunately, you roll a 5. And thus, as you jump off of the window, you simply fall forward and land flat on your face on the floor. This doesn't give you the opportunity to light the barrel. Fernando, you are still standing up on the walls. The wizard rushes over and says, "Oh dear, are you okay?" And starts looking at you, Noodle, collapsed on the floor. Let's see what Fernando does here.
Oh, no, you don't, Wizzy. You don't get to play the hero here. From my vantage point on the wall, I leap down, wings outstretched, to tackle Wizard Pneumonia away from Noodle.
Okay.
As I crash into him, I use my Intimidate Opponent ability, roaring back in New Stork City. We deal with pests like you by burning them down. Noodle, light those barrels, and let's finish this tragic tale with an explosion to remember. Vinny's going to be proud of our chaotic masterpiece.
All right, Fernando. You jump down from the wall and attempt to tackle the wizard to the floor. 12 or above, and you connect. Unfortunately, you miss, so you just kind of splat onto the ground. But you do yell intimidatingly at the wizard. Back in New Stork City, we deal with pests like you by burning them down. We'll see if the wizard was scared by this. 12 or above, and he was. Unfortunately, the wizard doesn't seem very scared. It might be because you just jumped off the wall and then landed on the floor. The wizard looks at both of you and says, "What is going on here? Why are you in my home? Would either of you like a Band-Aid?" He then turns and notices the red explosive barrel next to him and says, "Wait a minute. Why is that here?" Noodle, what do you got? Yeah, no, this is the whole premise of this. The wizard's chill. They think he's evil, but he's chill.
Oh, the somber symphony of failure, an otter's true lament. Wizard, your home's about to be a monument to melancholic chaos. I leap up with all my dark humor and scream, "Would you like a band-aid for your exploding soul?" I light the barrels, summoning a tragic blaze of despair. Fernando, get ready to fly out of here as we turn this tower into an inferno of forgotten hopes and dreams. For Vinny, for chaos, for the deepest abyss of sorrow.
Noodle runs over to the explosive barrel, grabs one of the candles off the wall, and throws it onto the barrel. And suddenly, boom! An explosion rings out. Noodle, by standing directly over the barrel that you just exploded, you are almost certainly going to take fire damage. But if you roll a 19 or above, you manage to escape it. Good luck. Unfortunately, the flames engulf you, and what is left of your outer body collapses to the floor. Noodle, any final words as you pass?
Flames of my tragic end. Vinny, I'll miss your chaotic love. Fernando, scream to the dark skies for me. This otter is flying beyond the flames into the darkest abyss of forgotten dreams. Remember, explode my legacy with tears and chaos. Farewell, my tragic hero.
Fernando, you watch as your second party member falls to the flames. You attempt to escape this explosion. You are a little bit farther away from it, so it's slightly easier. If you roll a 16, you know what? I'll even say a 15 or above. You do not take damage from this explosion. You're just a bit singed. You manage to leap out of the flames as they approach you and just barely escape damage. Meanwhile, you see as Wizard Pneumonia screams he needs to roll a 17 or above in order to not be hurt. And he rolls a 14. Wizard Pneumonia is burned and screaming under the flames. Meanwhile, they start to rapidly spread throughout this tower. Fernando, what do you choose to do? The wizard's tower is being lit ablaze. Does Pneumonia not have wizard powers? Well, he does. He's just... all he's done so far is he turned to some people who walked into his house, was like, hey, what's going on? And then they blew themselves up. So right now, he's just trying to figure it out.
Noodle, another one gone. This sorrow is turning into pure rage. Wizard Pneumonia, your time is up.
He hasn't done anything.
I scrambled to the barrel. Noodle didn't ignite, dragging it closer to the wizard.
Why?
With the tower already ablaze, I set the second barrel alight, ensuring no trace of this chaos remains.
Okay.
And with Noodle's final act in mind, I take a deep breath and scream into the inferno. For Creamy, for Noodle, and for Vinny, the flames will sing our legend. Then I roll through flames and broken glass to escape this blazing nightmare, leaving a trail of tragic beauty behind.
Okay, Fernando, you go pick up the last barrel, and you run it towards Wizard Pneumonia, who at this point you have barely interacted with. And you shout for Noodle, and you light the barrel aflame. Boom! It explodes with a gigantic ball of fire. If you roll a 19 or above, you will be able to escape it unharmed. Oh my god! And it's a 20! Fernando, using the deft power of your swift flamingo wings, you set it off and lunge to the side at the exact right moment, rolling over broken glass and debris as you make your way out of the flames and destruction, hearing Wizard Pneumonia scream behind you in pain. As the flames spread behind you, you run outside of the wizard tower. I'm worried he's gonna, stay in the tower.
All right, with Wizard Pneumonia screaming behind me in the inferno, I need to make this escape legendary.
Do you?
Back in New Stork City, we do things with flair. I sprint down the hill towards Hansdale Brook,
okay.
Wings spread wide, shouting, "The wizard's downfall is just the beginning!"
Wait!
Watch out, Hansdale, because Fernando's here to turn this town upside down.
Why?
Punch drunk on chaos, I crash into the bakery grabbing a pie and flinging it into the air as a signal of my triumphant return. Let's spread more mayhem cabin by cabin until this village is a flaming memory for Vinny, the Mafia, and the fallen Snorfins.
Okay! As you run through town, the mayor looks at you and says, "We can see it! We can see the wizard tower on flames! That was a little aggressive, but you did it!" But you run past the mayor, into the bakery, grab one of the pies and fling it into the air. Tuber, the local baker, runs in and says, "Hey, what are you doing? Please stop that! I worked hard on that pie." Yeah, just so we're clear, the only character who was a pyromaniac was Creamy, who died already a while ago.
Tuber, that pie's just the beginning. You want to know what's tastier? Chaos. I grab another pie and hurl it, barely missing Tuber's head.
Okay,
Then I leap under the counter and start causing mayhem, knocking over flour bags and spilling dough everywhere. Hansdale Brooks gonna remember the flamingo that flipped their quiet village into a whirlwind of New Stork anarchy. Vinny's gonna love this mess. Stay out of my way if you don't want to get singed.
As you run around causing chaos in the bakery, Tuber shouts out, Mayor, I think he's gone a little crazy. You see as behind him, Mayor Pawschamp runs in and says, sure, Fernando, you've done more than enough. You don't need to cause any more chaos here. Surely if we give you the treasure I mentioned earlier, you'd leave this poor town alone, right? You can move on. All right, let's see if he takes it. The treasure's pretty good, too. He'll like it.
All right, Mayor Pawschamp, you drive a hard bargain, but you know what? You can keep your treasure.
What?
My real prize is the chaos and the legend I leave behind.
I thought it was
But before I go, let's leave a final mark.
Okay.
I grab the nearest bag of flour and hurl it at Tuber,
Okay.
covering him in a cloud of white powder.
Okay, Tuber
then
gets
I leap
covered.
out of the bakery, flinging a handful of dough at the mayor for good measure. Hansdale Brook will remember the day it got a visit from Fernando.
Yeah, I
the
will.
flamingo of flaming chaos. Vinny's gonna love this story. Now time to find the next town to turn on its head. Stay frosty, Hansdale.
Oh, he's still telling people to stay frosty. Fernando, you successfully reject the mayor's treasure. Hurl the bag of flour at Tuber, which smashes onto him and covers him with flour dust. Grabs a pie as you run out the road and throws it at the mayor, who gets hit in the head and goes, "Ooh! My stars and stripes! Why would you do such a thing? We will certainly remember the time that flamingo visited Hansdale Brook." And as you run out into the distance, heading farther north towards your shadow clone, you hear the cries of celebration from the town and confusion because Tuber is covered in flour. Congratulations, you've made it through. You check your map, and you see that ahead of you is yet another fork in the road. The left path goes to another small village called Fireville. To the right, the path leads to a well-known merchant hub where various traders gather to do business. Which direction would you like to go, Fernando?
All right, Hansdale Brook, you've had your share of chaos. Time to bring the New Stork City spirit to this so-called merchant hub. Think of it as the next chapter in our legendary tale. I'll head towards the merchant hub with an eye for stirring things up. Maybe a bit of theft, and definitely some smack talk. Gonna show
Okay.
these traders what happens when a flamingo with mafia aspirations comes to town.
They're not traders.
Vinny's gonna love hearing about the havoc I wreak there. Let's see what sort of mayhem a lone flamingo can cause among merchants.
All right, Fernando, you travel up the road, and after several days of travel, find yourself at the entrance to a grand bazaar full of various merchants selling their wares.